Hi there, welcome to the Raising Cinephiles podcast, a show about passing on your love of cinema to the next generation. I'm your host, Jessica Kantor, and I have worked in all facets of the entertainment industry for the last 20 years, and recently became a mom. This week, our guest is the incredible Nadine Crocker. She has worn many hats in the industry, and most recently as a director of the film Desperation Road in theaters and streaming October 6th. But definitely go see it in the theater. We discuss how we watched inappropriate films for our ages when we were growing up, how she discovered that women can be directors, and how she found her creative voice. We also discuss her son's love of Pixar film and bringing him to Barbie 4 times in the theater. Always remember that myself and guests are speaking from personal experience and not giving parenting advice. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Welcome back to the Raising Cinephiles podcast. This is your host, Jessica Kantor, and today I am joined by Nadine Crocker. I really love how she lists her many roles on Instagram in the specific order, so I am going to read them in that order: mama, wife, director, writer, producer, actress, revolutionary, and mental health advocate. And most recently, her film that she directed, Desperation Road, will be coming to theaters, right? To theaters?
Yeah.
Wow.
Theaters all over and on demand on the same day, October 6th.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
So my first question is, what is your first movie memory?
I want you to know what a difficult question this is to try and think of, because, you know, like, you can know your love of cinema, but like pushing it back to what was the first memory, you know? And so as I sat and really tried to think about that, I just like could go back to the feeling of when I was a kid, and my parents, like my parents have always like watched what they want to watch. Okay, I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
And like, of course, like I had my own TV to watch, like Princess Jasmine and like all of those things all the time. But my dad has always been really into movies and shows, and so as a family, we'd get together and watch whatever it was that he really enjoyed. And I think it kind of introduced me to like cinema and adult films at a really young age, like, honestly, and probably films I shouldn't have seen at that age, which is like my suggestions are going to be like so inappropriate. No, but really trying to think back to, that's, I think, it was the time that I got with family where we all got together. And so it showed me that cinema can bring us all together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the moment I really feel like cinema changed my life and like showed me how it can surprise you,
Mm-hmm.
was like that first feeling of when I watched The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
Do you remember that feeling when you watched that film? Like, for me, I'm the young woman who, if I start a film, I can tell you in the first 10 minutes pretty much like everything that's going to happen. And my dad always had that gift, and I think I was competitive, so I wanted to be better at that than him. And so it gave me that ability very young to be able to be like, oh, I see the foreshadowing. Oh, this guy is going to do that. This is going to do that. And I just remember the feeling when I watched The Sixth Sense of being so utterly and completely shocked and surprised and realizing like, holy shit, they tricked me. Like, cinema can surprise and shock and engross you and, you know, keep you guessing. And I remember that. And I really do take that sensation and that feeling into every script that I write. I'm like, how can I surprise the shit out of the audience? Like, how can I make them feel the way that I felt that day, you know? And
do you remember about your age when you saw it? I know memories are a funny thing, right?
So that's the thing I was trying to remember is like age. I'm really bad. I have a lot of memory issues, like with childhood. Like, I'm just gonna be real. I have a lot of trauma, so it probably doesn't help. No, but I know I was young. I was younger than someone who should be watching Sixth Sense, because I remember that it terrified me. Like when Misha Barton's character came out and like had the vomit and all of that and was in the tent, like I was screwed up. Like I was like, oh my God, this is scary.
I saw it in theaters, and I definitely don't think I should have, because you know, I'm not much older than Haley Joel Osment, if not like the same age. So like
Yeah.
he was pretty young in that.
I know. So that's how I feel. I was like, I know, I remember the feeling well, but I was young. Like I remember being young when I watched that film. I mean, and my parents didn't shield us. Like one of my earliest movie memories that I ever went to a theater, my parents took us to see Bad Santa for Christmas. And I just remember how humiliated my mother was because she had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
She was like, oh my God, I have my tiny children with me in this movie. And I'm just like sitting there like, holy tamale, you know? So I definitely saw movies I shouldn't have been seeing at a young age. Let's be real.
I think that was normal though for our parents because I hear that a lot, first of all, on this podcast. And also they didn't have as much media education as we do. So, or as much information as we do. So like my mom, when I was 12 or 13, took me to see Pulp Fiction in the theater.
Oh my God.
I remember looking at her and going, Mommy, what does OD mean?
Yeah, right? I mean, it's so... But I guess if you like go back to like maybe our generation isn't the parents that were like still smoking with you in their arms or in their stomach, but like their generation, how they were raised, you're like, yeah, things were just different. Like now I feel like people judged me because I took my son to see Barbie and he's obsessed with Barbie. And I'm like, it's not even not kid friendly. Like, you know what I mean? Like they beeped out even the curse word that was in that film. So it was like, it's just definitely different. Like,
yeah. And also Barbie, which one of the things I loved about it was they actually didn't use guns in the fight scene.
Yeah. No, they used like lacrosse nets and like tennis rackets. Like that's why I was like, of all films, like I guess I look back to my childhood, I'm like, my favorite movies were literally at a young age. Like, and it kind of explains a lot about where my future went. But like Requiem for a Dream and Girl Interrupted were my favorite movies. Like,
yeah, I loved Requiem for a Dream.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so screwed up, but it's so good because, you know, and those are the films too. It's like that shaped me as a creator because they are the films that made me realize like you can actually affect the audience's emotions. You can make them feel nauseated. You can make them literally feel like they're in the shoes of these characters. You can create that same sensation. And that was something so exciting to me. And it's something I still take with me. It's like every project I create, I'm like, how can I defy reality? How can I make the audience feel like they're experiencing this for that small window, you know? And it was something I really took with me on Continue because my whole mission for that was suicide prevention and mental health. And also like, how do we make the audience who maybe doesn't deal with this, like feel like they can identify or understand it or educate by the end of it, you know? And I just feel like some of those films in cinema, those earlier films that we saw probably at way too early an age, showed us like, holy crap, this is what you can do with film.
Yeah. And so you had a journey into entertainment and in lots of different roles. What was the moment you were like, I want to work in this crazy business?
I mean, honestly, so my father was a country singer. That's why I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. And he had like the same manager as like Billy Ray Cyrus. And, you know, he was like doing it. He was writing for Sony Records. He was, you know, really thriving. And so as a child, I would watch his music videos. And I would start imagining myself as the girl in the videos. And like, that's how I realized I wanted to be an actress. And so what I thought I was doing was always dreaming about acting in those moments. But what I now realize, like as an adult, when you really like look at it, I was storytelling. They weren't videos that like, I wasn't envisioning someone else's video. I was making up videos in my mind, shots for them, the story that the song was telling. What was it telling? Like, oh, this one's about a love story. So I want to show like that. And I'm like making these little movies in my mind. And so that's what started my love for the arts at a very young age, but that just manifested. Like I always knew I was like for Christmases and things like that, we'd put on our own little theater plays. Like, I don't know if you did that, but like, you know, where you get everyone to like do a little
I just
skit.
wasn't talented, so I didn't go anywhere.
Oh, believe me, they were like, we were good. We thought we were, you know? So we put on these little shows and I just never stopped doing that. And then I went into drama in school and I did all of those things. And at 16 years old, you know, I had started modeling when I was really young. And I was like, I have to do this. And so my parents would take me down for auditions. But then I was signed with some big reps and was getting a lot of auditions. And it was kind of like they had to make a decision. Like, are you going to let her go and do this or not? And, you know, I think about that all the time. Like, Jessica, you and I are moms. So like at 16 years old, they trusted me to go to LA on my own and support myself and like strive for these dreams. And like, I think about it now, I'm like, they were out of their minds. But at the same time, I'm so grateful they were out of their minds. You know, I'm so grateful that they let me and they trusted me to do that. And it nurtured this career and it gave me all this time to understand this career and work odd jobs and work my butt off. So I appreciated everything I got. And then I worked in art department and I started doing production design and I, you know, did PAing and I was doing everything I possibly could to just be as close to it as possible as I was auditioning like 3 or 4 times a day. And, you know, and it's like, as a creator, like when you hear those old interviews, like Ryan Gosling, like, have you heard the interview where Ryan Gosling describes in that one documentary, like going into these rooms where there's like 1,000 youths and you're all wearing the same outfit and you're all like stuck in traffic, driving to your next one. And it's just like, it's a maddening rat race. But I loved every second of it. And
it's like, you want to do that when you're young. You don't want to do that when you're like 30. I mean, I have so much respect for those that do, but you know, at a certain point you want to make money. You know, so.
100%. But also like, you won't have the energy. Like,
yes, exactly.
If I was starting now, like I just had the courage to leave Fresno and come here now, I couldn't even do the stuff I used to do. Like I never slept. And I would get off from working at a restaurant at like 3 a.m. and then go home and memorize 20 lines of dialogue to be at an audition at 10 a.m. Like I now need to be to bed at like 10 at night. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
How the heck did I do that? And like each time it kind of feels impossible when you go into production and then you are so aware that like it comes back like riding a bike. Like, oh yeah, never mind. I can live on no sleep, no food, no. You know?
Well, I mean, so I want to ask you a little bit about, well, one, I wanted to just throw back to the beginning of your story when you saw yourself as an actress. And I just want to call out, like, of course, because you didn't see any women behind the camera. So how else would you envision yourself being part of the film industry? And so the more women get to see, or young girls get to see women behind the camera, the more we can imagine doing other roles than playing, you know, what's traditionally women get to do.
Well, I believe in that so much. And I'm so glad that you said that because I don't think I really knew that women directed when I was that age. I'm just going to be real with you. Like there wasn't a huge opportunity for women, I think, in that way. You know, I definitely didn't see that as a young woman, you know, growing up. But also, I think a lot of young women are told that their value is in their looks. And so if I could be pretty and if I could, you know, like I was, you know, I hate to say this, but like I was the pretty one, you know, everyone else was the smart one or the this. And so I thought that like that would be my value. And so I had to be in front of the camera and all of those different things. And like, I'm so glad that I discovered that that's so untrue, you know, that like I can actually do both. And now I have a career for writing these ideas that are in my mind and and directing and the visions that I bring to life. And it was just like the day I realized that I was smart enough and I was all of these things. It was like the best day of my life and I've never looked back. But it's so true.
I'll never forget when I was at NYU in a class And I watched a film called Cleo from 5 to 7, or Cleo 5 à 7, a French film, and I loved it. And then I asked who made it, and it was Agnes Vardes. And it was the first time I'd ever discovered a female director. She, from the 70s and French New Wave. And all of a sudden I was sitting with all these film bros, that were directing majors. And I was like, wait a second. There's room for me on that side of the room.
Heck yes. I know. I try and think back to that too. It's like, when did I even realize that women could do it? Honestly, I don't even know what memory, like it's really only felt possible in the last several years. It was like, I think my first director that I like really was like, holy crap, like women can do this, was like Andrea Arnold or Deborah Granick. I don't know if I said her name right, but with Winter's Bone and like all of these incredible films that you're like, oh my God, like, and they're telling these gritty stories and like, you're just like feeling it. And it was just such a great discovery, and like then became like an obsession with deep diving into women in film and cinema. And it's just, and it's constantly evolving. And I hope that the number of female directors just constantly keeps growing. You know?
Definitely.
It's so funny that you said that too, because like I've been thinking a lot lately of this article. I did I hear it or read it? And it was Quentin Tarantino basically talking about female directors. And like, don't quote me if this is the exact percentage he said, but it was something along the lines of like only 2% of female directors in the DGA ever get a second film, or something crazy. Like that. And you're just like, and whatever that percentage is, however low or high, if I did misquote it, it's like either way, I'm within that percentage. And like, that's kind of mind-boggling to me. And mind-boggling to me that percentage is so low. And, and then it started to make me think like, I wonder what the percentage of women is that gets nominated for an Oscar.
It's really low.
Yeah,
it's really
low. Like, it only even seemed possible that more women could start winning Oscars like within the last like few years, you know? It's like, so, you know, I just hope that keeps increasing.
Yeah. I mean, I also remember, like, I'm a surfer, and when I got into surfing, I really loved Point Break, and I just would watch it. And in LA, was it LA or New York? They would do these crazy like comedy shows where they'd bring someone up from the audience to play Keanu's character. Anyway, I did like, it blew my mind that Catherine Bigelow directed it. I was just like, blew my mind.
I know. Well, but all of her films like continue to like blow your mind. And it's like, those are the people that I've kind of like looked up to as like a young woman, because they didn't tell, I don't know.
They didn't tell like stereotypical female stories.
Exactly. They didn't tell feminine stories. And like, as a woman has a very comfortable masculinity, and like, I'm very like, I'm not overly girly. I'm kind of whatever the hell I decide I am that day. And so when I saw these filmmakers that made films that weren't stereotypical, like female films, I feel like that you might expect a woman to whatever, it blew my mind. And then I just wanted to know more and see more, and just constantly, you know, followed that as far as I can. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that excites me. Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to continue to do.
A really good segue into Desperation Road, because, you know, it is not a typical female film at all. It is gritty. And, you know, I look at the poster behind you, and I have it up on my screen next, like the coloration actually reminds me, and I haven't seen it in a long time, but it reminds me of my memory of Sixth Sense. So,
oh my God, I love that.
So what was in there, I think, when you colored it? And just, it's really intimate, you know, it's really like you really get in there with your cast. You really get in there for the performances, and they really took the journey with you. So that speaks to the dynamic between the two of you, because, you know, you were really close on most of the actors in their most explosive moments, which can be tough, right? Because that's like when you're meant to be subtle, right? So I would love for you to speak to that a little bit and some of your inspiration and influence for that.
Yeah, I mean, when I met with every single actor there, you know, and even before I meet with them, like I write love letters to the people that I want to go on the journey with, you know, and so I tell them why it is that it's them that I'm choosing and what it is that I plan to do with the film. And so even upon our first sitting down with any of them, it was like, it's very important to me. I always want to get the audience on the ride, like, and make them empathize. If we can make them empathize and get on the journey, they can see the world through a different set of eyes for the few minutes that we have them. And that is always my mission. What can we give them? What can we show them from someone else's experience? Because in a world today, a lot of us are shut out from each other. A lot of us are wrapped up in our own world. A lot of us walk past the homeless person on the corner and like turn the other way. Like we, you know, we don't necessarily help the person next to us or whatever, you know. So with this film in particular, it was really important to me that like we get them on the ride, we make them see the world through someone else's eyes. And especially this mother who is desperate to provide for her child. And like, she has this line, like, not everybody has someone. And I wanted them to feel that and that isolation when you have nowhere to turn. And so I was very clear with them from the get that I'm going to be like all up in your face. And that's because when things are at their most intense, like I believe that that's exactly where I need to be. I need to be as close as humanly possible. I need to witness everything because this is something that's in almost all of my letters as well. As a director, the thing that excites me the most is what's happening within the eyes and like in the mind of our actors when they're not saying anything at all, or when they're saying something, but it's not at all what they want. It's not at all what I'm seeing in their eyes. I'm seeing you say, get the hell away from me, but your eyes are saying, please don't leave. You know, it's like those combating messages and like inner struggle. And I feel like the only way to see that is if I get so close to you that I see what your words the words that might be coming out of your mouth, but really what's really working behind your eyes, like inside your mind. And so, yeah, I try and get as close as humanly possible. And luckily I have actors who like trust me to do that. And like, you know, and it all comes with trust. I mean, I think that because when I'm working with a creator, my creators and or anyone, like even this interview, you know who I am when you meet me. I don't pretend I'm anything else. I'm extremely vulnerable. I'm extremely empathetic. I have no secrets. Like, I'm like, oh, that's what I've been through. This is what I've been through. Like, so you know what you're getting very early on, and that's either for you or not, you know? And I think because I go into it like, this is me, it really has opened other people to be like, oh, well, this is me. And so because of that, and I'm so lucky with the people that I found in my life and these collaborators, it was like all the bullshit was out of the way. And we were just in it together, and we just trusted each other, and we were able to discover things together and
be courageous. You guys were courageous together. Like you could tell that you were all riding the line, which is what creates the magic.
I'm so glad that you just said that too, because one of the things that like I have literally Post-its all over my house is courage. And it's something that like me and my coach talk about a lot, because people think I'm so confident and like, you speak from your heart. No, it's courage. It's not confidence. I am afraid and I step into it and I put one foot in front of the other and I'm open and I speak from the heart and I do those things, but it's not from confidence. It's from courage. So, thank you for saying that, because it's a courageous experiment we all do together and experience. And that's why at the end of it, you can just feel so proud,
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about kiddos, and we'll kind of like, before we get to your kid, there is a beautiful young woman in your film who really also like gave a lot, like her, for a young person to really trust in the actors around them and you to let their emotions fly. I was really impressed, and I could definitely tell that the director was a mom, because you pushed her emotionally, but you kept her in her lane too at the same time. So I'd love you to speak to working with her.
Oh my God. I mean, Piper, like, I feel like I can't stop raving about her enough because, you know, while we did such immense work together to like get to this performance and to make sure that it was everything that I knew that it could be, she's so talented. Like she is a star. It's like that same feeling of like, I remember the first time I watched Dakota Fanning, like in I Am Sam, and you're just like, that's an old person in a tiny body. Like that is a soul, you know? And when I speak to Piper, like that is a soul. She is like a little sassy pants, and I'm obsessed with her. I love her so much. Like we text each other, and like me and her mom text each other constantly still, like to this day, just being like, hi, how are you? What's happening in the world? And, you know, just constantly checking in because I care so much about her. But I definitely think that mama bear, like nature was very important to me, that she always felt safe and supported on set, and like the most important person on that set. And sometimes that looked like there was nothing she wouldn't come up to me to talk to me about. Like, you know, that's how comfortable it was. Like, I was like, everyone needs to know like what Piper, like I established that very on, like, I'm your person. I will eat anyone alive for you, you know? And like every time after set, when she gave that performance, like I would just hug her and be sobbing, and she'd be laughing, and I'd be like, you're sick of mine. Like, oh my God, you just broke my heart. And like grown men are crying, and like, you're laughing right now, you know? And yeah, it's just like, even down to, she'd be like, Miss Nadine, can I talk to you? And I'd be like, of course you can. And, you know, I'd squat down, and she'd be like, I don't love these boots. Like, okay, can you get wardrobe over here? And like, I'm like, yeah, we don't like these boots. I think let's go back to the originals. Like, she likes the fringed ones and like that all came because I had these fringed cowboy boots that I wore when I was a little girl that were pink, but they were so worn in that they were no longer pink. And so like we developed those together, and she was like, no, I don't want to change my boots later on. Those are my boots. And I was like, those are your boots. You're right. Like, if that's what you feel, that is right.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, I think she just started to let her flag fly, and it was so fun to watch and witness, and to see her
have a voice as an artist.
I was just about to say, grow this like really strong voice and really strong opinion, and I was just so proud of her. I mean, honestly, like I felt like I like watched her grow, and like her mom always says to me, she's like, thanks for changing our lives. And I was like, you changed mine. Like, do you understand what that film would be with someone who couldn't pull that off? I mean, it was a lot to put on a child.
She was the stakes, you know?
Yeah. And she killed it. I'm so proud. And I'm so proud for everyone to see, because another little, like, she's a Nickelodeon star. Like, she's like on kids shows, and like that's her lane, and she's always wanted to have an opportunity to do a drama and to do this. So I think that's why when she got the opportunity, she's like, oh, I'm going to do it, you know? And she just did. She killed it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know I want to respect time because I know you're running late and have a big schedule. So I have like just a couple more questions. One is kind of more from a personal place as I'm trying to find my footing back in the industry postpartum. How do you juggle being a mom and making movies? Directing especially takes so much out of you. And I would love just kind of any tidbits of practical advice of how you made it work.
Yeah. I mean, I had a really like, you know, I'm just going to be super honest, is like, I had a really hard time coming back after, because I was primarily in acting when I had my son. And while I was 2 weeks into my maternity leave, all my reps dropped me, which mind you was illegal. And basically we're like, we don't know what to do with you anymore. You're our young hot actress, and we don't know what we're going to do with you. And it was like, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it made me realize like, I'm freaking done waiting for people to give me this opportunity. I'm going to give it to myself. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to do this, you know? And so it gave me a different strength in myself as a creator. And my family was like essentially the traveling circus. Like, we just all supported each other. It was like, it was now like us against the world, you know? And so one of the hardest things ever is, as he grew, like, it was really easy when he was young. Like, your son's age, like, it was easy. Like, we could bring him anywhere. There wasn't a school we had to talk to about absences. There wasn't friends that he didn't want to leave, you know? So it was like, now when I was going in for even just like Desperation Road, it was like, what is the right thing? You know, how do I balance my needs and wants as a female director and as a creator, and also my needs and wants as a mother to make sure that he's happy. And so it's a balance. And for this film in particular, we chose to break up like the amounts of time, like, so they were there a couple weeks and then came out to see me and like did it back and forth. And one of the times, like when he came to see me for the first time, like, oh my God, like I'm getting so emotional just thinking about it. But he cried. He was so happy to see me. Like he was smiling and like ecstatic, but he had tears coming down his face. And I'll just like never forget that feeling. I'm like, I'm never going to like be away from this tiny person again, you know? And so long story short, after that, he didn't want to go back. He didn't want to leave. And so we were like, great, that's the decision for us. Like they flew back and he was like so broken up about it that I flew them back 2 days later and they stayed the rest of production.
Yeah.
And now Zach is very clear that no, I go with mommy to her movies. And so like now we have an on-set teacher and now we have like a, you know, and my son has autism. So it's also different. He has to have a certain level of therapies and help and extra things. And so we've essentially like found our own path forward that was right for us. And I think each person has to do that as a creator. You have to find what is the right thing for you because, you know, a lot of people might make you feel like bad. I mean, people say that they're open to mothers and women and all of these things, and they're no different than men being in the thing. But like, there's absolutely a different voice when you're like, oh, what does your son do for all that time that you're gone?
I know.
He's with my husband, luckily, you know, with his parents. But did you ask my husband that when he went to go do that project? No, he didn't. No. So why are you asking me? You know?
Yeah, the idea that there are parents, not a mom or a dad, but we're all parents, you know, and figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also shouldn't be looked upon or frowned upon that like us as mothers have big dreams and big aspirations as well, because, you know, that's one of the things I pride myself about the most as I look around at like my son and how his life, like, you know, my son doesn't know it yet, but he played tag with Mel Gibson for, you know, a while. Like he threw a football with Garrett Hedlund on set in Kentucky. And like, he is watching, like, that's what I always tell Anthony, like my husband, I'm like, my biggest pride is that I'm showing him that he can live his dreams. And now he wants to direct. He makes movies and he has his own YouTube channel.
Amazing.
And he says cut and action and he tells me how to edit them together and he chooses the poster like for the front picture. And like, so it's so crazy to see how that manifests. And like, I didn't plan that. I didn't tell him like, hey, be a director. He's like, no, I'm going to make movies like mommy.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God, there's a spider on my screen. And so I'm moving away because I'm freaked out.
I hate spiders.
You too. So if you're open to it, I'd love a link to his YouTube channel I could put in the show notes.
Oh my God, I love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you 2 questions because I want to talk about your son a little bit. And I know we're kind of tight on time, which is, what was do you remember the first movie you showed him?
What was the first movie I showed him? I mean, it's Pixar. My son is obsessed. Like, I don't know how else I can say it other than like all children have enthusiasms, but children with autism have like enthusiasms. So like he is Pixar bust. And I think it was Toy Story. I honestly do believe it was Toy Story because his first love was Buzz Lightyear. And then that manifested to like his deepest love, which has been Lightning McQueen, which has like stayed forever. I'm actually not sure Lightning McQueen will ever leave. Like he's still convinced when he's 16 he wants to have his own Lightning McQueen. I see you moving away from this cover and I'm freaking out.
It's coming right for me. I'm sorry. Okay, it's moving away. Oh my God.
Oh my God, you poor thing. I could see the terror on your eye, like in your eyes, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I help her?
I think he's underneath this thing. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. And when did he pick up a camera?
I mean, honestly, it was pretty early on. Like he's been making these little like videos and like trying to for a while, but really, really got into like filmmaking essentially because it is in this last year. Like, and also he's seen like because he calls it mommy's old movie and mommy's new movie because I made Continue first, and that is coming out later this year. And my second one ended up beating my first one and all of the things. But and so he started telling us he was going to work for Pixar and he was going to make his own movies. And so like, you know, that's the funniest thing about me is like I tell really gritty, like, you know, edgy stories and stories on mental health. And, you know, I think I love more masculine stories, but I also have like 3 films that I want to pitch to Pixar. I have like, and that's mainly because of my son's enthusiasms that have like made me be like, okay, what is a valuable lesson that we could give kids through animation and, you know, different things like that. So, but yeah, I think it's like this year, really, he like stopped saying he wanted to work at Pixar and started making his own films. It was crazy.
He's probably a little too young still, but I'm taking his AI filmmaking class and he can like literally animate in the style of Pixar
Oh my
using
gosh. That's
AI.
actually, we should try that. He did make the other day, like, it was a very basic AI, like silliness. Like, it was kind of like it put a train cart and let him record voiceover at the same time. And like, he made his own video on an AI app. Like, so
Yeah.
he's like anything with technology. Like, my son is very advanced. Like, he shows me how to operate and get through like Roblox. I have no idea what I'm doing.
There's a course starting that might be worth, 'cause that's what I signed up for through a thing called Curious Refuge.
Okay.
And it's for adults, but it talks about how to use all the different AI tools, specifically Midjourney, ChatGPT, and Runway.
Okay.
Basically, you can take images from Midjourney and animate them. So he could come up with his characters and then do little animations.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, even if he's too young to do that, then it seems like either my husband or I need to do that course and then be able to like teach it to him or show him or
Yeah.
help him do it because that would like he would lose his mind.
Lose
Like
his mind. Yeah. Lose his mind. But also, like, I do think all of us need to educate ourselves in tomorrow's tools because they're not going to take over if we understand how to use them to amplify our work and our vision. So I always recommend
really
to
valid
everyone.
point, I guess that I've never really looked at it that same way is that if I make sure that I know how to use the tools better than anyone, like, then I won't be left behind, right?
Exactly. All right. I'm going to ask you my last question, which is what movie do you recommend I show my son? And it can be when he's older, obviously, well, much older, like not, so that he falls in love with cinema.
I was trying to really think about this question because it was like, you know, and so I try and always just go from the gut, like, and the first instinct that came up when I read that that was a question was ET. And I don't know why. But I think it's because at a young age I remember watching ET and or like Jurassic Park. But the reason I didn't say that one initially is because that one also scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh my God, dinosaurs are terrifying. Please don't ever let them come back. But ET in particular, because it showed us like a whole new world. Like, what if there was aliens and like, and he made his own alien and they flew a bike and like, you know, I don't know a kid who when seeing that film didn't like make believe that they were flying their bike across the sky with an alien in their front basket. And like there was a ride at Universal I remember going on as a young kid and being like, oh my God, I have an alien in the front basket. And I got to be in the front seat on that ride. And I have no idea where that ride even is or if that's still a thing, but I just remember that incredible feeling. So that was my first instinct that came up.
Yeah, I love that one. Have you shown it to your son yet?
No, I haven't. That's why when you had these questions, I was like, wow, these are so great for me to think about for my son because we had to go through, like, he has no interest in anything that is an animation. But then Barbie blew his mind and he was obsessed with it. He actually, like, we went and saw it 4 times in theaters. And, like, the producer is one of my closest, dearest friends and who I'm doing my next projects with. And I don't think she understands how much kids also resonated with that film. It wasn't just for adults, you know? So I'm now getting to the phase where I'm like, I think he can watch like some films I love, So I think I'll be trying it soon.
I've learned from these interviews that some of these classic films are playing in theaters. I know E.T. played at Vidiots this year in LA, and then they're at outdoor festivals. And so in the summer, you'll see it a lot.
For that, because he's now, by the way, my son just got into movie theaters. He's obsessed. So this Saturday, actually, we have like a huge event, and all of his friends from class, I made like a little invitation, and we told them the seats that we ordered, and we invited everybody, like all the kids from his class and all of his friends and the people from like his ABA center and all of these things to go to see Mighty Pups that's coming out this weekend.
I love that.
Yeah. And so we were like, popcorn and candy and everything is on us. Just please bring your child out and let's all experience a movie together. Like, and some kids won't make it all the way through, and there's no pressure. And so we've had a countdown on our wall.
I love that.
Leading us to this Saturday. So, and like, he's like, yeah, that's great. Your movie's coming out, but Mighty Pups, Mom. I'm like, I know. Mine doesn't matter. Only Mighty Pups.
Yeah. I love that. I'm thinking of doing a second birthday party for my son at the theater, but renting the theater and showing like The Red Balloon, which is short, but something to captivate like young learning language, because it's, basically a silent film. But just to have that experience in a theater at a young age with like some of his friends. And I can send the link to all the parents to make sure they're okay with the content.
But that sounds like such a beautiful experience too. And like, that was one of the things for us is like, we tried young. Like, I honestly I think he might've been, maybe he was 3 when we went, the new Toy Story came out. I'll have to look at the year. And we went and we tried, and we only made it through the first 30 minutes. And then he was like, all right, I'm ready to get out of here. But like, for those first 30 minutes, his mind was utterly blown, and it was like, and so we worked our way up to longer increments in theater. And then now he
can just
wants
do it
to go all the time. So it's like, for us, it's like, yes, we're finally there. Like, now we can go see movies all the time,
I love that. Yeah. We just need more for them.
I know. We need more films for them. Like, that's why I think I'm so passionate about someday doing like some animated films that have messaging that's like really important. And also, like, I guess like, while I have this platform, I'm going to say also, people, cinema goers, like, when you're in a kid's movie and and there's children there enjoying it, don't look over at them like they're interrupting your damn movie. It's Toy Story. What are you doing in their movie? Like, that was one of the things that like bummed us out. Like, me and my husband, it was like, there was like a lot of adults in it in LA, because, adults go to see those movies, and they looked at us kind of like, your child is laughing and talking. And I'm like, but it's a kid's movie. Where do we go then? Where do we go? Like, where are we supposed to take children for children's movies?
Yeah.
So that's another thing we've talked about someday. We want to make like an all children's theater that replays all old films and new films. And
I want to start actually a screening series. I've been reaching out to different theaters for like my first movie and like curating it and inviting kids and creating a beautiful experience for them to see their first movie. And there's enough kids that it can be rolling, and it can be old movies, new movies, just stuff appropriate for them. That kind of, I also believe that kids shouldn't always have easy content. Like, just challenging stories, I think, are okay as kids get older, and getting used to being uncomfortable, I think, is important.
Well, also, I mean, what you're saying is like, any movie theater who wouldn't support that is really silly, because that's the next generation. And if you want them to be excited about going to the movie, you should give them an environment where they can go and watch movies, because cinema is dying. Movie theaters are dying, and we want the theaters to come back. Like, I don't want my movies just to go straight to streaming because no one goes to the theaters, you know, like, so if you want to nurture our next generation to go to the movies and to constantly like want to be there, then like, let's give them an environment where like everyone feels welcome to go see movies and to experience their first movies, and to like, have more children's movies. Yeah.
I'm going to end us on that note. Thank you so much for this conversation. I loved speaking with you, and I'm sorry I got terrified by a spider.
Oh my God, don't be sorry. You would have seen the same exact thing, except for there would have been high-pitched screaming if it was me. I am such a I'm like, oh, I'm not girly at all. So I totally am. I'm I'm a liar. So I was impressed by like the fact that you stayed so still with just a terrifying look.
Well, I didn't move until it like literally started coming near me. I was like, oh.
No.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your candor and your courage. So thank you for joining.
Oh, of course. And thank you for having me and for letting me talk about like my two favorite things in the whole world, which is filmmaking and motherhood. I mean, it's not very often, honestly, you get to incorporate the two. That's why when I heard about your podcast, I was like, yes, all the way.
Awesome.
Count me in constantly. So hopefully we'll see each other very soon when my next film comes out too. So we'll have another conversation.
I would love that. Absolutely.
Me too.
All right.
Have a beautiful day.
You too. If you enjoyed the conversation, please don't forget to like and subscribe. New episodes release every Wednesday. And leave a comment and let me know which movie you think I should show my son. Until next time, take care.